So let's say, especially you're a seller and you want to now list your property for sale, and you have in your mind determined that I want my property to be vacant, but I've got tenants in there. So what am I going to do to have the rental property to be vacant? So let's take a look at some of the situations that we can do. And I just wanted to remind everybody, in case you weren't able to join us last week when we talked about selling rental properties with the tenants in place, just as a reminder, the existing lease is going to continue until the lease ends. So if you want to sell, you're going to have to wait until that lease ends. And I just wanted to remind everybody, you can't force the tenants to, terminate their leases, and you can't force the tenants out to move. And this creates a problem sometimes for landlords. And this is exactly what Hadi was talking about today is maybe I want to sell my rental property because the market is now on an upswing, as Hadi just informed us that I didn't know about. Or maybe I want to be an owner occupant, or I'm a landlord who wants to live in one unit and rent out the other unit. So I want to move into the property right away. Well, I can't do that because there's a current lease in place. And then we just spent quite a bit of time talking about, if I'm a landlord and I'm a buyer, I just don't want to inherit all the problems that go along with these existing tenants. Well, too bad, because the lease is in place and I have to deal with these existing tenants. So let's take a look at then some of the strategies that you as a landlord can use if you want to list your rental property for sale and you don't want to have the tenants there in place because their lease is still going on. So the first thing that you can do is, if you think or you know that you're going to be listing your property for sale soon, when you put together your lease, include something called the sale termination clause there in your lease. And what this basically says is there's a clause, and here's a sample clause that you can take a look at here. It says the tenant agrees that if the landlord lists it for sale, then the tenant has to move. Another strategy that you as a landlord can use is you can be very creative or proactive about when you want to schedule the times that the leases are ending. So for example, if you have multifamily properties, one tactic you can do is have it so that all your leases end at the same time. And of course, we all know that the prime time for selling is in the spring and the summer. So maybe you want to have all your leases end in May. That way it gives you a month or so to get them fixed up. You list it, in June or whatever it is, and everybody's out the door. Everybody has moved out at the same time. And you've done this in a very creative way where you scheduled it or you've planned it out that way. Another strategy you can use is just have month-to-month leases. Don't have year-long leases. Don't have 2-year-long leases, etc. Just have the month-to-month leases. And of course, we all know that you can end the lease at any time, and you can just let the tenant know, nope, not renewing the lease. I'm getting ready to sell. And that's it. I mean, they don't really have any option. Of course, we know that they can just refuse, and then you got to go through the whole eviction process. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But of course, it is easier for you to terminate the leases when you have month-to-month. And honestly, if you take a look at all of the various tactics that we're going to take a look at, this is probably the best strategy you can use as a landlord, because if you're the existing landlord, it allows you to have, continue to collect rent until you list the property for sale. And then as a new landlord, it's good for you too, because on the month-to-month leases, yes, I'm inheriting the existing tenants, so that way I'm going to continue to collect the rental income. But if these tenants don't work out, if I don't like them, whatever it is I want to do, that way I can terminate the lease and ask them to move or institute my own lease or any changes you might want to do. So month-to-month leases are a really good way for you to have the rental properties be vacant, or to transition over from the new landlords and the existing landlords. Another strategy you can use, and Hadi, I think you're going to like this one, is a lot of landlords offer what's called the right of first refusal. And what this means is that you're giving your existing tenants an opportunity to buy the rental property from you before you put it on the open market. And Hadi and Virginia, I don't know if you guys have done any of this or if you offer this, because of course you have to go with what the landlords tell you to do. But a lot of landlords find that this is very helpful for them, because that way they don't have to vacate, force the tenants to move out, and they don't have to deal with putting the rental property on the market, dealing with the showings, everything that goes on. How can you help your tenants though buy the rental property from you, because remember, a lot of your tenants just don't have the financial means to do so. Maybe their credit scores are not very good. Maybe they don't have, the financing, the down payment to do it. So maybe you want to help them to do it by helping them obtain conventional financing. Take them over to your lender and help, educate them on the whole home buying process. A lot of them might be surprised to find that, with a little bit of help, they do qualify for traditional financing. I think what a lot of landlords do instead to help their tenants buy their rental properties is turn to what's called creative financing. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. There's rent to own situations or lease to own situations. And, that's beyond today's presentation to talk about all of these, because there's so many different kinds of ways that you can structure this deal. But the whole goal is that the tenant is going to eventually buy the property from you. Maybe part of the rent goes to the purchase price. There's just a lot of ways that you can structure these, and it helps especially the tenants who just don't have a way to come up with the whole big chunk of down payment to buy the property from you. And then another really popular one is seller financing, where you, as the landlord, you serve as the bank, you serve as the lender. And again, you can structure these in a certain way so that you can allow your tenants to buy the property from you, and you just bypass that whole vacant versus occupied situation. Hadi, have you guys done this, or have you had any landlords do the some right of first refusal?
Not a right of first refusal, but I have, I had, I don't have one right now, but I had a landlord that every rental he had was a contract for deed with a tenant, rent to own with a tenant.
So that's probably, I didn't include that one, but that's another strategy here of the creative financing, right?
Yeah, well, it's a way of creative landlording. So
Mhm.
you tell the tenant, hey, if you, I'm willing to sell your property to you for whatever dollars, right?
Mhm.
Close with me for every month you pay the rent on time. I'm going to give you $75 credit at the time of closing.
Right here. Yep.
Because I'm selling the property to you right now, you're responsible for all the repairs until you close with me. That's
Mhm.
So he had properties, good condition. He would sell it to his tenants. He wouldn't do the repairs the tenants would do. He would he would get some tenants couldn't do it, end up in eviction and court. But then that's how he acted. That wasn't too bad.
There are some really creative things that you can do to sell your rental properties or to buy the rental properties without having to deal with these tenants. So just keep it in mind there.
Yeah, I have
Um,
properties right now that we want to sell. So I have some of the properties Fairview ended up with last year. We want to sell them. So I offered them to the tenant. None of them took our offer
yeah.
because they have their own priorities, things like that, and it didn't happen. Given a first right of refusal as a contract, it might get complicated, might get tricky, the wording might be bad, I wouldn't do it, but I definitely, if the property is occupied, and I would offer it to the tenant always first. You never know.
Interesting. Yep, yep. I think that we'll do a presentation about that, and we'll take a look at all the good stuff and bad stuff. And Hadi, I kind of thought you guys probably did it because I know you have a very unique approach to the tenants, and that you want to, give them benefits that a lot of landlords usually don't, and you want to treat them fairly. So it would only be fair to offer them an opportunity to buy the rental properties.
Of course, and you can help them with the down payment.
Hmm.
They do that, you save some, at least 6% or 5% on commission. So
Yep.
more effective, you can offer a couple of percent toward their closing costs, and it's the most convenient way to do that. I think we have done in the past that the tenants purchased our rental properties.